My name is Jessica Chen. On behalf of the 9/11 Memorial Museum, I would like to welcome you to today's program, We Were There. This program is presented by our partner organization, the 9/11 Tribute Center. The moderated conversation you're about to hear is a new addition to the museum's regular auditorium programming, which also includes Facing Crisis, America Under Attack, a short film featuring original interviews with President George W. Bush, New York Governor George Pataki, and New York City Mayor Rudolph Giuliani. We invite you to join us for a screening of this film at 5 p.m. or during another visit. The exhibitions at the 9/11 Memorial Museum are filled with first-person stories and the voices of people who experienced 9/11 and its aftermath. The recognition that history is written out of the stories of real people is at the heart of the mission of the 9/11 Tribute Center and the basis for We Were There. Our partners at the 9/11 Tribute Center created a video to tell you a little bit about their organization and the programs they offer. Following the video, we will be joined by our moderator, Judith Pucci, and two speakers from the 9/11 Tribute Center. Please keep in mind that there will be an opportunity to ask questions of our speakers at the end of the program. This program will run for approximately 35 minutes. Please note where your exits are located and turn off all electronic devices. No photography or recording of any kind is allowed. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lee Ielke. I'm the president of the 9/11 Tribute Center. I'm also a board member of the 9/11 Memorial Museum. The 9/11 Tribute Center was started almost a decade ago by myself and Jennifer Adams. We brought together people who were deeply affected by 9/11 and built a community that is devoted to preserving and sharing their 9/11 experiences. We felt the need to give a voice to those people who had their voices stolen from them on 9/11. At the 9/11 Tribute Center, and here at the 9/11 Memorial, we share our stories with visitors every day. Our tour guides come from what we call the 9/11 community. They're all volunteers. They're either family members, rescue or recovery workers, survivors that came out of the towers, volunteers from all over our beautiful country, or people that lived and worked in the area and were witness to things that nobody should ever see. I'd like to invite you to take one of our tours on the 9/11 Memorial by one of our Tribute Center guides. In a few moments, you're going to hear two of our guides tell a little bit about their personal stories. By sharing our stories, we help others understand the impact of 9/11. The Tribute Center is a place of healing, support, and a testament to our strength. We hope our stories inspire you to remember 9/11, and that you strive to make tomorrow a better day.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Thank you so much. Usually no one says hello back. It is so great to see so many of you here, really. You're tremendously welcome today. This is the 9/11 Tribute Center presentation of We Were There, and my name is Judith Pucci. I am the Tribute Center walking tour guide. The Tribute Center, you just heard a little bit about us in the film when Lee was talking. The Tribute Center is a group of people whose lives were directly affected by the events of September 11th. And I can assure you, we are a diverse group. We come from different backgrounds, we're of different ages. In the normal course of life, many of us would never have met. Now it's very different because now we share a powerful bond. And the Tribute Center is our home base. It's where we find support, and it's where we tell our stories about what September 11th was like from the inside. Today, you are going to hear two of these stories, and they're going to be told to you by the people who actually lived the experiences that they will be telling you about. I am very proud to introduce them to you because they are two of my fellow Tribute Center guides. We have next to me is Mark Crawford, and next to Mark is Connie Magnus. Thank you. Connie is a retired New York City police officer, a detective sergeant. So if anyone is thinking of acting up, do not. Mark, too, is a member of the NYPD. Mark has been a New York City police officer for 22 years. Currently, he is a lieutenant with the Brooklyn South Narcotics Division. Mark is here because of his father, Robert James Crawford. Mark's father was killed on September 11th. He was a New York City firefighter. His body was recovered in a stairwell in the South Tower, along with the bodies of 6 other people. We're going to begin this afternoon with Connie telling her story, so I am very briefly going to set the scene for you. Connie was off duty on September 11th. Like so many first responders, when she heard about the attacks, she rushed here to the Trade Center to do one thing, to be of help. As you'll hear from her story, helping us, strangers, is a high priority in Connie's life.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Like many people, I was home on 9/11 and saw the events unfold on television. As a sergeant in the police department, I knew I had to get in, as most first responders did. It's called a recall. If you're off, you're coming in. So I live out in Long Island, which is a suburb, about 40 miles from here. And on my drive in, I worked for the chief of detective's office, and I knew my job wasn't going to be what I usually do every day, investigating crimes that happen. So on my drive in, I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do when I get there? What's my job going to be? What can I do? So on my drive in, I thought about when I was a rookie police officer in Coney Island, which is a beach area in Brooklyn. It's where I started my career. And I remembered that we used to get a lot of lost kids on the beach, you know. And the kid would be crying and be very upset. And I would always grab them and say, you're not lost. I found you. You're right here. It's your parents that are lost. And they would go, oh, yeah, they're lost, not me. So that would calm them down. It would give me a little better time to find out maybe what their parent was wearing, where they were before, and I could get them back to their family. Because one thing, the greatest thing a police officer can do is bring people home to their family. That's the most precious thing to them. So that's when it hit me. I said, now I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to find people, because I'm good at that. And I volunteered to be one of the detective supervisors at the mall. Some of my family members and friends were like, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to find everybody, and I'm going to bring them home. At the time 9/11 happened, we thought potentially there was 10,000 people missing. Turned out to be a little over, almost 3,000 people, but we didn't know that at the time. So when I got in, I was assigned to the morgue, and immediately we started working. We started finding people, finding remains, trying to make identifications. It was a lot of chaos going on. You know, police departments dealt with planes crashing, they dealt with building collapses, dealt with fires, not all at the same time. But I had no doubt I was going to find everybody. No doubt whatsoever. I was going to bring everybody home. I was good at what I did. I had the resources of the greatest police department in the world, and I was going to find everybody and bring them home. And it was difficult. The first few days, we started recovering people right away and making those notifications right away. which is where my first difficult days came, if you will. I knew people were going to be happy that they got their family member back, but it was going to be difficult notifying them about, how do you tell somebody, well, we found them, and they're happy that they were found, but they're gone also. One incident that comes to mind is, we would call people and tell them to come down to the medical examiner's office, we found, the remains of your family member. And I got a phone call from a young police officer, a female police officer, who said, "Hi Sarge, how you doing? My aunt got a call that they found my uncle. I'm going to be coming down to the morgue with her, and could you tell me what you might have found?" And I usually don't do those things over the phone. Of course, I verified who she was, because you never believe anybody who calls on the phone. But I said to her, "You realize it might not be what you think?" And she says, yes. I said, "Are you going to be okay with this?" I said, "Because you're going to have to be the strength for your family, for your aunt." She goes, no, Sergeant, I'm all right. So I said to her, okay. I said, "We found your uncle's arm and his hand, and we identified it from his fingerprints." I heard a gasp on the phone and a long pause. And I was like, "Officer, are you still with me?" And she was. And I said, "You need to find the strength. Just like I find the strength every day to come here, to bring everybody home to their family, you need to find that strength to bring your aunt down here and bring your uncle home." Tough days, a lot of days like that. And as the days went on, it started to become more personal for me. We would get calls from family members, colleagues I work with. I lost quite a few friends at work, cops or firefighters. And those were difficult days, but I was going to find everybody. Nobody was going to not go home. So I used to get information from people, and those little yellow sticky notes that everybody has? Every time I got a piece of information on somebody, I would put that down on an identifying remark. I would put it down on a sticky note, put it on a wall that was behind me. And it could be something like, "Connie, Pam had real spiky blonde hair." Or, "Connie, my brother's loop on his rope for the fire company was in was unique to him." Or, "It was my twin brother, Connie." Or, "She was wearing a clatter ring." And on all those notes, I put them on the wall, and kind of felt a little serial killerish. There was yellow sticky notes all over the wall, hundreds of them. And a good day for me would be when I came in and I was able to get one of those sticky notes off the wall and throw it in the garbage, because we found somebody and brought them home. So now I worked with them all from September 11th until April the following year. And it wasn't until about 5 or 6 months in, a friend of mine, Maureen, who was a detective, lost her brother who was a firefighter. She would come in every few weeks from the day it happened, and she would say to me, "Connie, did you find anybody from his company or any of his, fellow firefighters found?" And I would tell her no. She was looking for anything, any shred of, did you find them? So it wasn't about until 7 or 8 months in when I realized I had to tell her, "Maureen, we may not find him, ever." And I knew that because all my sticky notes, they weren't coming off the wall as quickly as I would like. And it was at that point I realized everyone we lost that day really wasn't lost. They're here. When you walk through the halls here, you'll feel them. But I'm still lost. The families are still lost. So I tell my story, and I thank you guys for coming so that people don't forget who's lost, and to be here for the families that are still lost. Thank you.
As of today, right now, as of today, 41% of the remains of everyone who was found on September 11th have not been identified. That means that a little over 1,100 people that morning vanished into thin air. Now, as you just heard from Connie, it is very likely we have the remains of maybe everyone who died here at the Trade Center. As DNA technology advances, the hope is that more people will be able to be identified. If you are like me, when I heard that around year 6 or 7, I thought, 6, 7 years have gone by. What is the likelihood? Well, the likelihood is good because another person was identified as of last September. So Connie's mission, to bring everyone home indoors. Now for Mark. Mark's father, Robert Crawford, also rushed to the Trade Center that morning. On September 11th, he had been a New York City firefighter for more than 32 years.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule and your vacation to come spend time with us to hear what it is that we have to say. As Judith alluded to, my father was a fireman for 32 and a half years. On September 11th, as a matter of fact, he had to retire in November because 62 and a half is the maximum age you can be an active firefighter. So he was going to be forced to retire in November. So, speaking about my father, my story is really about my father. I have to explain to you my relationship to my father. Growing up, my father was my hero. He was what I aspired to become, and I considered myself that if I was half the man my father was, that I would have been a success. So September 11th, as soon as the plane hit the building, I knew that something was wrong. I knew it was not an accident or whatever they were saying. Something was going on. And I also knew that my father, who I thought was off that day, would be responding as was everybody else. There was an immediate recall of all New York City Fire Department and Police Department personnel. So I knew he was going to get down there and he was going to be there rather quickly. So I called my parents' house and I got the voice machine, the answering machine, and I left a message. I said, "Hey, Pops, I see what's going on there. I know you see it. I know you're going to respond down there, so I'll probably wind up seeing you down there. Just stay safe. Be careful. I'll see you later." So with that, I made my way to back to my house because I was running errands that morning, and I made my way over to work at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we were on standby because everybody who was working during the daytime was down here. So they held everybody on standby who was working either 4 to 12s or midnights, because they couldn't send everybody down because they still didn't know if this was it, if there was other stuff going on. So we're hanging out at the precinct, just waiting. About 5:30, my sister Rachel, who's also a New York City police officer, called me and she said, "You know, Dad was working this morning." Now, I've become very concerned because he worked by the Brooklyn Bridge in Brooklyn, and they have a full view of downtown Manhattan. So I know what was going on. They were sitting there drinking their coffee, waiting for their tour to start, and they saw the plane hit the building. So they were in the vehicle on their way over the bridge before the call even went out. So now I'm extremely concerned about my dad because I know what's going on and I know where he is. So I wait a little bit. Finally, it's about 10 o'clock at night. So I go into my captain's office and I said to him, "Look, this is my situation. I'm going there. I'm not asking your permission. I'm just letting you know that I'm going. So I understand you're responsible. You have to account for me. That's where I'm going." So he looked at me and he took the keys to his personal car and handed them to me. And he said to me, "Listen, Mark," he said, "your family already has one question mark. Do not make yourself another one." And it was a very profound yet simple statement he made because suddenly I was aware that I was in a frenzy. I was in panic mode. I was freaking out. And I was out of my mind. And it really crystallized my mission and what I had to do and what I did not have to do. And that was to go down there and run around like a maniac and get myself hurt or killed. So with that, I'm going over the Brooklyn Bridge. I parked the police car by City Hall Park. And as I got out of the car, first thing that really struck me was that there was nobody there. This is City Hall Park at night. There's thousands of people walking around all hours of the day and night. It doesn't matter. I was the only person standing there. And that kind of freaked me out a little bit, you know? And the second thing I noticed was as I'm looking around, it looked from the dust cloud, it looked like it had snowed. And with that, with a heavy snow, you get that deep silence. So I'm confronted by, I'm the only person there, there's a deep silence, and I was kind of freaked out a little bit. And as I looked towards the site, I could see red flashing lights from the command center. So that kind of, you know, okay, there's people over there, let me start making my way over there, you know? So I get to the site, and as I'm looking at what's left of 220 stories of building, the only thing that kept going over and over in my mind was, where is the rest of it? This was a 50-foot high pile of concrete steel. It didn't compute to me. I kept saying, where's the rest of these buildings? This was 220 acres of buildings. I didn't see a desk, a file cabinet, a chair, a copy machine, nothing. All you saw was chunks of concrete, twisted steel, and papers. There were papers everywhere. So I make my way to the command post and say to the fireman in charge of the post, I said, hey, how you doing? My name is Mark Crawford, my father works in Safety Battalion 1. Could you do me a favor, raise them on the radio, see if they're around. And of course then, nobody's using the radio, so that whole controversy about the radio's not working and the technology was bad, it was all BS. Because the radio worked fine. When you have 3,000 people trying to use the same radio, it's not going to work. It's going to be jammed. So unfortunately, I heard the radio bouncing around the whole site, and nobody responded. So kind of was getting an idea here of what the story was, but I didn't want to give up. So I made my way around the perimeter of the site over to West Street. And as I get around the corner onto West Street, there's nobody here. I am the only person here. They didn't even have the entire perimeter secured. They didn't have enough personnel. So now I'm standing here at this intersection all by myself. There was a pedestrian overpass that went over the West Side Highway, so you could go from the World Trade Center to Battery Park without getting run over by 16 cars. So they did that for pedestrian safety. And it was down, and underneath it I saw there was some fire trucks. I said, hey, you know what? Let me make my way over and verify that he was here, because I'll see his truck and okay, he was here. The only thing going on at that intersection was the fire hoses that were connected to the hydrants were cut from the buildings collapsing, and they were still spraying out water. So there was a combination of dust and water. So there was this thigh-deep mud that I had to make my way through. It took me about 20 minutes to go across the intersection to get to the pedestrian overpass that had collapsed. So I make my way up there, I'm covered in mud, and I lean against the pedestrian overpass, and I'm looking underneath at these vehicles, and I see the site in front of me, but all of a sudden my vision goes dark. And I'm looking at what appears to be a deep hole in the ground. And at the bottom of this hole, I see my father standing there. And he's looking up at me and he says, hey kid, what are you doing here? You're gonna get killed. Go home and take care of everybody else. And then I came out of this. I don't know what you want to call it, a vision or a dream. And then immediately I hear from behind me, hey brother, what are you doing here? And I turn around, and there's a New York City police officer standing directly behind me. And I know he's a police officer because as I look at him, he's got the NYPD baseball hat, he's got the windbreaker, he's got the blue cargo pants, and he's got black shoes on. And I stop at the black shoes, and then I look at this guy again, and he has not one speck of mud on him. Now, I'm covered in mud from walking across the intersection, and this guy had not one speck of mud on him. So I'm getting a little freaked out now, and I go, I'm looking for my father, and I think he's over here. And he says to me, well, you're going to need this more than I am. And he hands me this little prayer medal. And I take it from him, and I turn around, and I went, oh, I didn't say thank you. And he's gone. Now, from my vantage point, with my back to the pedestrian overpass, I can see from one side all the way to the other side. I don't know where this guy went, but he was gone. So with that, there in the back, my neck starts moving around, and I said, all right, folks, I got the message. It's time to go. And with that, the next thing that really struck me was the smell. The smell of that smoke and the sight, the acrid smoke. It was almost as if you took a light bulb and you broke it and you swallowed it, because I felt that air all the way down into my stomach. And I realized this is a dangerous place to be. and I had to get the hell out of here because I got to take care of my family. So I left. As was alluded to before, they found my father on Wednesday night, the night before Thanksgiving, between the 10th and the 15th floor in the B stairwell of the North Tower. Thursday, they came to make the notification at the house. Friday, I went down to the morgue and I identified him, and took him home and put him to rest. Thank you very much.
That's how many New York City firefighters were killed on the morning of September 11th. Never before in its history has our firefighters and our department lost so many on one day. The fire department was not the only group that lost. 23 New York City police officers dead. 37 Port Authority police dead. September 11th stands as the worst loss of first responders in a single event in United States history. Mark's father is now part of that history. He died doing what he loved, which is helping people. I want to thank both Connie and Mark for sharing their stories today. For Connie, this is a way for her to give voice to all of those that she could not bring home. For Mark, telling his story honors his father's life and legacy, as well as the valor and sacrifice of our first responders. What I'd like to do now is, don't be alarmed, but I'd like to open this up to all of you. If you have any questions, either Connie or Mark, this is the moment. So just take a moment. I know this is kind of overwhelming at this point, but if anyone would like to ask something, feel free. Two. We're going to get your microphone.
I just wanted to ask you. If it helps you at all to tell your story. I know that it's a tribute to your father and to your point of bringing people home. Does it help you at all to deal with what happened on that day to talk about that?
It does. I feel like I didn't finish my job. You know, when you're a cop, you want to, find a bad guy, bring the lost home. So not being able to do that, as Judith said, for over 1,100 people we haven't been able to identify. Doing this really helps me with the fact that people won't forget what happened here and that the family members and the people that are lost know that we're still looking. And people still remember. So it helps me a great deal. It's a little tough sometimes. I was happy I didn't lose it too badly up here. But it helps. It helps me a lot. And that's why I do it. So, you're welcome.
As for myself, yes, absolutely it does. And I always like to mention this when I'm doing my tours, but as bad as this event was, probably the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life, I always explain to people that it's people like you guys. There was over 500,000 volunteers who came down. And I tell people, everybody's, the first responders, yes, that's true. But, it's our job. The call went out and we went to do our job. We couldn't have did our job if it wasn't for 500,000 volunteers. I'm standing on a pile of rock and I'm dying of thirst, and all of a sudden, I look for water, and I got 3 people handing me a thing of water. I was gonna float away. You got old ladies from Little Italy, making sandwiches in their kitchens, walking over, Sonny, you look hungry, have a sandwich. So as bad as this was, and this is the worst thing that has happened to me in my life, I have to say it renewed my faith in humanity. because as evil an act as it was, the outpouring of compassion and love and caring and humanity overwhelmed that. I had a hard time dealing with the amount of compassion I was receiving. As a New York City police officer, most people don't like to see me when I show up. It's part of the job. I show up at your house and I'm telling you what you can and can't do in your house. You don't want me. You don't want me there. You don't want to see me. And a lot of times we have bad news because that's our job. So people are saying, we love you, hugging me. And I'm like, for a long time, I didn't know how to react. I was like, what's going on here? Are they filming this? What's the story? So I have to, and I always mention it on my tours at the end, and I really have to tell you, it renewed my faith in humanity, as bad as it was. And telling people this and expressing my appreciation to you guys for spending time out of your day to hear our story really means a lot to me. So yes, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, why do we tell our stories? That's an excellent question. It's the one we're asked most often on tours. You've heard why Connie and Mark tell theirs. The fact is, though, that almost every single person at Tribute will have his or her own answer. One of the things, though, that is common among all of us is that by telling these stories, we truly hope and believe that it will make clear that as awful a day as September 11th was, it was also a day that showed everyone the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. The reason we tell our stories here now at the museum is because we hope that by hearing them here, it will actually enrich this experience for you. The last thing I want to leave you with is actually very important, something that Mark just touched on. It is you, your part. You are critical to our storytelling, because without you, very frankly, we are all talking to ourselves. And you can hear today the value to all of us in your listening and in the sheer fact that by you coming, the sense of commitment that you have when you listen. You pay us tribute and you join with us in this experience. And that matters enormously. So I want to thank all of you on behalf of Connie, Mark, and Tribute. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Hey Dave, how are you?
See it once, and you experience it, and then you know how to like talk more about it when it happens. Why do you like to join us? Yeah, I think it's going to be good. Yeah, no,
Speak to her con otro tipo. por allá.